Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a highly requested video because one, it's embroidery, and two, it's Animal Crossing related. I have been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons non-stop. I love all the features that they've added to this game. I am a longtime Animal Crossing fan. These embroidery hoops that I will be making today, I actually used to sell on Etsy. I don't do that anymore, so I thought I would show you guys how to make it yourself at home if you really wanted to get your hands on one. You can do this with your favorite villager in Animal Crossing or even your main character. The possibilities are really endless. I'm just going to walk you guys through step by step my process of creating these, so I hope you enjoy it. As always, if you recreate it, make sure to tag me on Instagram at Jamie.Photo. I love to see your recreations of the DIYs that I post. And now let's get into the video. Make sure you stick to the end of this video for a giveaway and a chance to win this Fauna embroidery hoop. So to start out this embroidery, you'll need these patterns that I drew out in the past for my Etsy orders. And if you want to know how to make these patterns, I'll link my video below where I talk about how to design your own pattern. I used that process to make all of these. And you can easily trace over a pre-existing picture of the villager you want to embroider. I'm using a 4-inch embroidery hoop and white cotton fabric. My favorite embroidery thread is DMC. Scissors for your fabric and for cutting the string. You don't need pinking shears, I just like to use them because they keep from fraying. Some cardstock paper, pen and pencil, reference photo of your villager. Optional but very handy, a plastic embroidery hoop. This is what I do the actual work with. Also optional, this light pad, but a window works great as well. Alright, let's begin by color matching our embroidery thread that we're going to use. Simply do this by holding up the thread you have to a picture of your villager and just seeing what looks best, and play around with the colors till you find what you like. For Fauna, I put all the color numbers down in the description so you know which ones to pick out. Cut out a square of fabric. If you're using a plastic embroidery hoop, make sure that it is one size up from the wooden one that you'll transfer it onto, and just pull the fabric tight until it sounds kind of like a drum. Lay your embroidery hoop face down on your design and trace over it with pencil. Again, you can do this with a window. You don't need a light pad. Check out my video in the description for more details on how I do this process. I like to embroider with 3 strings of the 6-string embroidery thread, so split it in half. To do this, I run my finger down the middle of it, and sometimes I will twist it to encourage the splitting, and then thread your needle. Now to start, you want to pick the direction of your stitches. The direction will help show movement of your drawing, so I'm choosing to go with a slight diagonal, and you can see that lines up perfectly with her snout right there. I tend to find that the angle of the head stays consistent, but once you move on to their clothing and their body, the direction will change depending on what part you're embroidering. And now we're just going to fill in this first part. I tend to fill in the biggest spots first and then do the littlest spots of the embroidery last. The main stitch we'll be using for this whole project is the satin stitch, and that is where you just fill in the whole entire area across, coming up through one side of the pencil and going down into the other side. And when you come to the edges of your drawing, as long as you bring your needle up through one line on the pencil and down the other line, you should keep that same shape that your drawing has. Tie off your thread on the back, holding it close to the fabric. And then just repeat this process, filling in all the spaces on her head that are dark brown. Now moving into the lighter brown, continue with the satin stitch coming up right along the edge of your previous color and going back through the fabric right along the other edge. And when you come to things like her eyeballs and her cheeks, just make sure that you're going through right along the previous color thread and through that pencil line. So we're leaving spaces to fill those in with colors later on. And just bear with me while I'm explaining all of this because it's my first time trying to actually describe embroidery. What I'm doing here though is leaving a gap for her mouth as well. I'm going to fill that in with a black. And now we are going to fill in the eyeball, leaving a little space for the white in her eyes though.
Winds southerly at about 15 with gusts of 25 miles an hour. Barometric pressure 30.00 and is rising. And no precipitation. We're about a half inch.
You may have noticed that I covered up the spot for her eyelashes. I like to add those little details back in later, and I just check my reference photo to decide on the angle for that, but I find it's much easier to add in those itty bitty lines over top your embroidery instead of going around them.
Heavy snows. Now what will happen each time that you see the frontal system on there, that begins at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll see the cloud pattern move until 2 o'clock this afternoon. So as of that time, of course, the front was way off in the northwest. Now, however, it's moving into the central part of the nation with a couple of high pressure cells behind it.
And then fill in the pink on her cheeks and the white in her eyes. I'm going to be filling in the darker portion of her ears first, and then filling in the remainder space with the lighter pink. Onto her body. I don't know what color I want the mouth to be yet, so I'm moving on to the arms. For the arms, I like to go up and down diagonally, just following the movement and curve of her arms. I think it makes it look more natural than going really long ways across. And since I have the dark brown thread on my needle again, I'm going to use this time to go back in on any spots that look a little patchy to me and just fill those in. Continue to follow the angles in the drawing. That is the best way to show off the movement with your thread. And for the legs, I'm just going straight across, back and forth, starting with the biggest section, working my way down, angling slightly at the knee since her knee is bending. And then for the straight leg, I will just go straight back and forth, following that movement. For the mouth, I'm going in with the back stitch in black, but you could also do dark brown if you want her smile to be less subtle. Here I erase the left hoof because I can tell the width is going to be a bit wider than my stitches because of the width of the arm, and I don't want the pencil to show through. starting on the vest, I'm going straight across up to the middle line. I am embroidering over the button clasp though, because I will go over the thread like I did with the eyelashes. The only space I'm leaving here is for the seam to go down the middle. For the collar and the bottom of the vest, I'm going to follow the curve of this half circle. So I'll be coming up through where the neck hole is and then down the opposite edge, and this will create that curved effect if we just follow it along the entire way. Using the back stitch again in a dark brown for the middle seam, and I will be going over for the clasps. I didn't add the buckles or dots because I got lazy, in all honesty, but you easily could add those at the edges of these with the French knot stitch. Alrighty, time for the border. I'm using the back stitch for the branches here. And I'm just going to show you how I embroider one of these branches, because I'm just going to do the same thing on the other three. But the branch is simply the back stitch directly over top the pencil. For the leaves, I don't know if this has a name, but it's what I like to do. Your first stitch will be down the longest point, and then the stitches to follow will be next to that first one, slightly lowered, and each one goes back through that same hole at the bottom. So you're creating a leaf effect by going slightly to the side and lower and down through that same hole at the bottom. The petals is the same effect, but instead of lowering your stitch, I am coming back directly next to my previous stitch at the same level, but I'm still going through the same hole on the way out and repeating that 3 times for each petal. The last thing to note for this is that I'm using the darker pink for the petals on the top 2 branches and the light pink for the French knots, and then on the bottom 2 branches I'm using the lighter pink for the petals and the dark pink for the French knot. And it's done. Just don't look at the back. But that's okay, because right now I'm going to show you how I transfer this to the wooden hoop and how I cover up the back. So remove the outer hoop and remove the inner wooden hoop, and I just lay this directly over top, and then do the same thing that we did in the beginning, where I slowly tighten and pull the fabric through, and I just keep moving it until it looks centered and straight. Now take a piece of cardstock or scrapbooking paper, or here I'm using scrap paper. In the same size embroidery hoop, we're going to trace the outside circle of that inner hoop and then cut along it. You don't need to use these spiky scissors. Again, you can just use regular scissors. Get your hot glue gun and slowly glue and fold that fabric over the hot glue on that inside ring. And I don't know why, but I cut the excess fabric after this step. You could probably do it before though. Last step, add glue to the outside edge of your piece of paper and glue it onto the back. And it's done. From here you could easily add any bells or ribbons or even your shop sticker onto the back of that piece of paper. And giveaway time. I'm going to be giving away this embroidery hoop, so if you want to enter for a chance to win it, simply subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment down below who is your favorite Animal Crossing villager. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know every time I upload. Like I said before, make sure to tag me if you recreate this DIY. Instagram is the best way to find me, at Jamie.Photo. And as always, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.